Hey there, Bobby Klink from Your Online Genius here, back with yet another Facebook Live where we're going to talk about an important issue, legal issues you need to be thinking about as part of your online business. And as a quick reminder, well, actually, before we get to that, this is a week about course creation and legal issues that arise in the context of course creation, meaning, the courses that you might offer as a paid or free course. So we'll be talking about those issues all week. And today we're going to talk about an important issue about don't borrow. And it has some implications for every course. And we'll talk about the specifics about what you can and can't do in borrowing in creating an online course. But before we get to that, I want to remind you who I am, what the company is. I'm Bobby Klink. I'm an online entrepreneur and an intellectual property attorney. I started my career as an attorney, pretty boring, pretty stuffy, pretty ordinary in many ways. Didn't really fit me because that's not my personality. But anyway, so at any rate, what we did is as I was practicing law, I kept seeing a problem come up where entrepreneurs couldn't or had made mistakes back before they could afford or justify paying an attorney for one-on-one advice. And that always drove me nuts. And candidly, it took me forever to figure out how to address that. I finally figured it out once I started thinking like an online entrepreneur and not like a lawyer, and started thinking in terms of scalable resources instead of one-on-one relationships. So that's what Your Online Genius is. It's my attempt. It's my company that provides online entrepreneurs with the information and resources they need in a scalable way so that they can protect themselves from the outset before they are to a point of necessarily being where they can afford to spend the $10,000 or more it would cost to hire me directly. Because you can make mistakes early that could really ruin your business. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you and other online entrepreneurs. So that's what the business is about. Again, we are in theme weeks. This week is all about creating courses and legal issues that come up in the context of that. And today, as I said, we are going to talk about the limitations on borrowing, or really why you can't borrow in course creation. Now, what do I mean by borrow here? Let me back up and say what we're talking about is going and taking another course from someone else and kind of copying that content. And what can you do? What can you not do? And this is an issue that will come up, obviously, in very real world situations for you. So let me talk about this in a context both of where you might be, but also where I am. So let's use an example here. If you are an online entrepreneur who helps people build their business, right? So that's part of what you're doing is serving other online entrepreneurs. And so let's say you want to offer a course about list building, which would make sense, right? All online entrepreneurs need a list. We understand that's the basis of our business. That's how we make money. So we need to have a list. There's a lot of those courses already out there, obviously. I mean, I personally have taken, let me think, 1, 2, 3, I think 4 courses on that. I don't have them all in front of me, but I've taken them from a bunch of different people. And if you think about it, at the end of the day, there is going to be quite a bit of overlap because, well, I mean, there's only so much information you can have about list building. I mean, there's different people have different approaches to it. For example, some people want you to always be using a funnel with a tripwire. Some people don't suggest that. Some people suggest having, an email sequence that kind of walks through your evolution and kind of who am I, what do I write about, etc. Other people say don't do that. But the point is there's only so many approaches. So there's going to be overlap necessarily. The question is, how much can you, for example, could you go and take someone's course on list building? And if you do that, how much of that can you then put into your own course? And it's a hard line, it's a hard line to draw because what we're talking about here is copyright law. There's one other issue I'll mention later, which is terms of use. But first you have to be thinking about copyright law. And so copyright law protects the particular way you express an idea. So it protects what are called creative works. And like I said, it protects the way you present the idea. It doesn't protect the idea. So you can't, for example, say, well, I have an idea for how to build a list, and that's protected. No, what's protected is the way you present that idea. So what you can't do is you can't go take a course from someone else and just kind of lift that stuff wholesale and then use it as your own. And let me give you an example outside of your context, but in my context. I'm currently developing, and I'm going to be launching in about a month or so, doing a soft launch of a course to help online entrepreneurs safeguard their online businesses. It's going to be kind of a soup to nuts of what you need to have. And I'm going to have a lot of documents, template forms that that entrepreneurs can use, fill it in themselves with guidance through the course to fill it in and put their legal affairs in order. Well, I'm not the first person to have this idea. There aren't a bunch of people out there, but there's at least one other course that I found. You know, I haven't taken it, but it would be tempting for me to maybe say, well, why don't I just take that course and download all of those forms, and then I could just use them as my own? Well, that's not allowed. I could take the course maybe and get ideas, but I definitely can't take the course under copyright law and then just take the document they have. You know, I have no idea what format it's in, but let's say it's in an editable format. I can't take it and then present it as my own. That would be a copyright infringement. Now, that being said, so they're going to offer certain forms that I'm also going to offer, obviously, because there's, you know, like I said, there's going to be overlap. There are things that clearly need to be handled. And the law is a good example, kind of like list building. There's only so many ways to say certain things in the law. So there probably will end up being some overlap between the two. But I couldn't just go take that course, grab the form, and use it. What can you do? Under copyright law, you could certainly take all of your competitors' courses, get ideas, get, you know, thoughts, get an idea of, oh, well, maybe that, oh, I need to include that, but I hadn't thought about that. Those kinds of things you can do, but you can't use their expression of the idea and be all right with it, because that's where you run into trouble. Again, some people would say, you know, stepping back from course creation, in literature, for example, and movies, I think people say there's really only maybe 7 or 8, and I don't know the number exactly, but I think there's less than 10 story formats. Realistically, if you look at movies, they tend to all follow one of only a handful of formats. And again, they're also, you know, often in a very similar context. So you look at, you know, things like 10 Things I Hate About You, a movie that was from the 90s, I believe. And it was very much followed the same themes as an old Shakespeare play called The Taming of the Shrew. So that happens all the time. And if you take themes and it's the same format, that's okay. You can't, however, take the way it is expressed. That's where you run into problems. And again, it can be a dicey line, but the point is you can get ideas and inspiration, but don't like take the slides that you got from them and use those and then, you know, have those on one screen and start creating yours. That's where you're going to be getting too close. Take their ideas, maybe take the concepts, take the themes, but you have to make it your own. You have to express it in your own way. Now, from a business perspective, it might not be great if there's a bunch of other competing courses out there, because, you know, as you know, some of the great people talk about, you want to be in a blue ocean, not a red ocean. So you don't want to be somewhere where there's a bunch of other courses that are all in the same area. Now, if it's a free course, that is an area that might make sense. But so I mentioned that's the copyright law issue, but we also need to think about the terms of use or terms of service. Now, a good course, and we'll talk about this more later in the week, but a good course is going to have terms of service that are going to restrict the ability of people to use that information to create a competing product. So you need to be cognizant of that, and you need to look at and make sure that the terms of service for whatever courses you're taking don't have those restrictions. And if so, you need to be more careful. That's a contract violation. It's not a matter of copyright law. But, you know, for example, and I can't remember what it is, I took a course at some point or entered a program, and it was not online entrepreneurship so much, but it was a coaching program, I think a personal development of sort. And they specifically had a provision in their terms of service that said other people who coach in the same area are not allowed to take the course. And they did that because they don't want people to take the course, take the content, and then use it as their own. So you have to be careful and make sure you're not running afoul of that. Again, whether they'll figure it out, I don't know. But, if you take a course and the person then sees a competing product out there from you that's pretty similar to theirs, and they have a course, in terms of service that puts those restrictions, you need to be careful. They probably will find you eventually. So that you need to be careful of. So assuming there's not a terms of use or terms of service issue, getting back to the overall lesson, the takeaway today is it's fine to take inspiration, to get ideas, to get themes, to get, thoughts of, well, I definitely need to cover that topic. That's fine in borrowing those types of things. But when you start borrowing the specific way that they put it together, and that could be, for example, if a course creator puts the modules together in a particular way that's not automatically the only logical way to do it, copying that might even be going too far. So you need to not do that. Get ideas, get inspiration, but you have to make it your own. If you don't make it your own, you are infringing the copyrights of the other person whose course you took. So don't do that, and it'll get you in trouble. Quite honestly, from a business perspective, it wouldn't be a good thing anyway. I mean, if I went and simply copied someone else's course and then tried to offer it as my own, I mean, come on. Why would someone listen to me instead of the person who presented it first? So you shouldn't do it from a business perspective, but also from a legal perspective. So that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, I'd appreciate it. If you share it, if you get this information out there. Again, this week we're going to be talking about course creation issues all week, different legal issues each day that you need to be thinking about. If you're enjoying it, besides that, the other thing you can do is I have a free cheat sheet that has that addresses the 4 biggest issues that I see over and over again in lots of areas of online business that you need to be thinking about. And you can download that for free at mistakes.youronlinegenius.com. Again, mistakes.youronlinegenius.com. You can get your hands on that cheat sheet. It'll help you to understand what are 4 of the biggest and most common issues I see and how to avoid them. So that's my call to action today. I hope you'll do that. And I will see you again tomorrow with another lesson about the legal issues related to course creation.